Hello, and welcome back to WKNC's official sports podcast in the Den. Today we're going to be going over the Virginia football game and previewing the Wake Forest win this Thursday. We'll be going over Saturday's men's soccer match against FAU, and we'll be finishing by going over this evening's volleyball game against South Carolina. So, get your headphones on and let's get straight to it. All right. I'll start. I do have a couple of things to say about the Virginia game that we won. Okay, so 35-31. It was a pretty competitive back and forth, but NC State didn't really lead until the second half and kept it throughout the fourth quarter. So, I guess not really back and forth, but those first quarters it was. So I believe that the best course of action would be to have an advantage of the ground game because it felt like it was going to be an inevitable shootout. Both teams kind of seemed to carry that philosophy and focused a lot on the rushing game. I would say Virginia has the advantage in overall yards with about 8 to NC State's 6.7. But both Hollywood Smothers and CJ Bailey got 2 touchdowns, which kind of offset the 3 generated by Virginia's running back Jamari Taylor. And they also defensively were able to take care of Virginia's rushing offense. I mean, just look at the 4 plays of negative yardage, including a massive stuff by defensive lineman Sebastian Harsh that created a turnover on downs late in that game. In fact, I would say NC State did kind of lock down defensively in general. While the offense for Virginia was pretty good throughout the game, it was when it mattered where they failed. For instance, going 12 and 18 on third downs, I think most of the 6 that they failed were in that fourth quarter. Jandor Morris had a really good receiving game, but he threw an interception that helped to clinch the game. I think Cian Sloan was the one who caught it, so congrats to him. Let's see, what else do I have to say? There are still a couple of things I'm not really happy about. I would love to see CJ Bailey take that arm to the next level. I mean, only 2 passing touchdowns in 2 games. I guess isn't terrible, but I'd like to see more on the air, especially since there were no receiver who caught more than 5 receptions or 50 yards and 50 yards. Justin Joey showed up. Noah Rogers got the touchdown. But we got to see who can kind of come up with the consistent reception yards and the scoring. We need our go-to guy. It looked like early on I was going to be Joey, but that first game was rough. Teddy Hoffman kind of fell off. I'd say our best bet at that position would be Terrell Anderson. Yeah, I would say Terrell Anderson is our best bet. I can't think of anyone else. Um, I'd say the passing defense, kind of going back to passing, I think it was a bit of a step up, but still gave up over 250 yards and a touchdown. I guess maybe I'm kind of being a little too picky, but I would like to see some more pressure put on the quarterback, and I'd like to see just more stoppage in general. Offensive MVP CJ Bailey, drove down with his arm, clinched in with his legs. Hollywood Smothers also got multiple touchdown runs, and both of them were double-digit yards from what I could remember. Defensive MVP, I gave it to Sebastian Brown for a Sebastian Harsh. I don't know why I put Brown. To kind of clinch the game. or to help clinch a game, is also that Cian Sloan interception. And of course, Caden Fordham led in tackles. All right, so now we're going to start doing our little preview on what Wake Forest is looking like. And it's not that great. They have a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, and new defensive coordinator. Washington State's former head coach, Jake Dickert, who also helped Cam Ward and John Mateer develop. There's career coordinators with Robbie Ezell, who most famously was the offensive coordinator for South Alabama last year, where they had, I think, that quarterback, Carter Bradley, get signed to a team. And Scotty Hazelton, defensive coordinator at Michigan State, especially that one year when they were really, really good. So I'm still thinking that they're trying to find an identity for themselves. They're kind of going into a new RPO spread offense and a 4-3 defensive front that's also new for them. So hopefully, I think their big goal this year is just to try to get momentum for the future. They've had one ugly win and then one good win. They went 10-9 for Kennesaw State, where they lost in third down efficiency in the rushing game. And, that was just a defensive game with a lot of punters. And they were just one missed extra point and one missed field goal away from losing that game. They did better against Western Carolina, though, only giving up 42 rushing yards. Yeah, some notable players that I mentioned. Robbie Ashford, he's the quarterback. 445 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, with 108 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns rushing in both games. His running is complemented by Damon Claiborne, who has just started popping off with 193 yards and 3 touchdowns against Western Carolina. Some notable defenders. Langston Hall has 2.5 sacks. Devon Peterson with 3 pass deflections. And Samari Stevenson with an interception. All right, so now we're going to go into... I did the position versus position thing before, but this time I'm doing it a bit differently since I'm kind of rambling. So I just put rushing versus passing in general. So for the rushing game for both, it's just going to come down to who has a better defense. Both of them have really strong offenses where it's like just a running back who can really get you yards. It can really be a bruiser, and a quarterback who can scramble or who can do design runs that help get that extra yardage when the receiving games are falling short or with the pressures coming on. Both of them have really good offensive lines. I don't think Ashford has dealt with the sack. There have been some loss of yardage on rushing plays, but ultimately I think it's going to be the exact opposite of that Virginia game, where now I think you have to kind of lean a little bit more into the arms. Shout out to some of our offensive guys, Teague Anderson, Jalen Grant. I'm trying to remember who else off the top of my head. Shout out to the offensive line. So I guess I should really take a look at those Russian defenses. Let's see. They are, they're both pretty down the middle. Well, I feel like they've given up. They both have games where they've given up a little and a lot of yardage. But the key difference is that Wake Forest has lower competition level. So, see, NC State hasn't played a low-level competition yet. That's going to be after Notre Dame, and I think mid-October against Campbell. But regardless, they haven't given up a first down on third and fourth downs where where Western Carolina ran the ball. However, I mean, they did give up 8 against Kennesaw State, so it doesn't really balance too much. And I think what I've noticed with NC State is that those third down conversions by the defense have been with the passing game. So both of them have shown that they're competent at stopping the run-in when it matters. So it'll kind of come down to A, who's the bigger dog between them, and which offensive line is going to give up first. And I'm giving the edge NC State on this one just because of the play experience level. Let's see. Yeah, Wake Forest has a total of, just to show just how even it is. Wake Forest has 15 tackles for loss and a fumble given up compared to NC State's 14 with 0. So while Wake Forest is slightly better, again, competition level. Some notable players to mention, or a notable player to mention for the Russian defense of Wake Forest, Frank Cusano. But the guys I mentioned before, Sean Brown too, just any of them, Trevally Price, I think they'll be able to take care of business. Which is why I said Wake Forest. I'm all over the place. All right, passing game. This is where I think it's going to be a big difference maker. And both teams kind of have a problem where there isn't really a consistent number one guy. I mentioned before for NC State that Terrell Anderson might be the most likely because he's had 2 consistent games, but he's not good enough to be a number one receiver. We had that really good game with Teddy Hoffman and Wesley Grimes. I'm not really sure what happened to them in that regard. So it's going to kind of come down to just who gets the less coverage. Who does Wake Forest decide to focus on? And it'll probably be Jolly. Let's see. Noah Rogers caught the touchdown. He might get a little eyes on him. Wesley Grimes, Teddy Hoffman. Kind of just going through everyone. If I had to put money on who will probably have the big game, I mean, I've been a Noah Rogers believer for a while now. And I think, he started every game, I believe, or he's gotten a good amount of reps in every game, and he hasn't really showed up yet. This could be that game just because there's other receivers who have done better, and, their eyes will be focused more on them. Devon Patterson and Zach Lockvane have multiple pass deflections for this team, so they do have some strong defensive backs to kind of watch out for. I think I just have a little bit more faith in C.J. Bailey as a quarterback than I do Robbie Ashford. But let me just go into, let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of spacing out. Wake Forest's passing offense, Robbie Ashford, he's a senior or a redshirt senior. And they have a lot of income and receiving talent, but I guess they've also haven't had their number one star show up yet. Because, some of these teams just have their number one stars. You have what's his name? Ryan Williams for Alabama. Or you have who's that Ohio State wide receiver that's, really good right now? But regardless, it's usually, the kind of that number one guy, and that's kind of who you need to worry about. There's no one really to worry about. I'd say just terms of yardage and touchdown. Chris Barnes and Sterling Ballcoulter are both probably the top receivers, but it was Sterling got a lot of yardage in the Kennesaw State game, but I think he got negative yardage in the Western Carolina game, and Chris Barnes kind of had a similar thing going on, but he's also the team's punt returner. I'll get a little bit more into that later. Let's see. NC State, they've gotten better from week 1 to week 2 when it comes to stopping the passing offense. Caden Hauser and Chandler Morris, they gave up big yardage, but they couldn't get it in the end zone. which, I mean, I'm kind of just, you know, what's the saying? Not beggars can be choosers. I think I'm just kind of making a mountain out of a molehill out of this one. But, I mean, it's going to take a lot of firepower for either QB to really dominate in the air. And Robbie Ashford showed some low success rates on passing on third and fourth down plays. So I'm not really sure what to expect from them. And I'm more confident what we can get out of CJ Bailey. Which, hey, maybe his Heisman run will finally start gaining momentum. He's only like not the best quarterback in our conference. I mean, I guess if anyone from the ACC is gonna get it, it's probably Fudge, Miller Moss, Cade Klepnick. Oh well. Oh, Carson Beck could get one too. Could get it. Um, CJ Daniels is gonna put himself in that conversation soon. Please. All right. So I gave the edge to NC State on that one too, just on both sides. I think this is not going to be a really hard game. Um. So the last thing I want to mention, the special teams. We brought back Kanoa Finnset, but he didn't even get a chance to kick. So the future of who's going to be the kicker at NC State is just going to come down to practice. Punter, Caden Newcastle averages 48 yards. He's gotten within a 20 on 3 out of 8 punts. Let's see. With a high of 59. We haven't gotten to use our returners a lot, though. And that might not change with Wake Forest, where their punter, Cal Joseph, has 10 punts, averaging 38 yards, with 6 below 20. And their kicker converted 33% of his kicks and hasn't made a field goal for 30 yards yet. So it's just, I mean, I feel like it's going to be an easy win just as long as NC State doesn't look past it and CJ Bailey actually pops off on the passing game. Defensively, just put the pressure on the offensive line and force Ashford to scramble and make quick decisions. He's lost a fumble, thrown an interception, so I think he is prone to making mistakes, as is CJ Bailey. But I would say, get aggressive and force him to get out of the pocket. And once he does, I don't know how good he'll be. Final score projection, 38-10. I would like to say one thing, though. NC State, they'll probably get ranked after this game, I hope. They're like one of eight unbeaten teams right now, so we're down to like a final 8. And this is our second ACC game. We're like the only team that has this many ACC games so far. But I digress. Coming up next, I'll be talking about FAU men's soccer. It's kind of a quick plug for myself. If you enjoyed this, I'm on WKNC radio at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. And that's around the same time I kind of upload these two. So, make sure to come by. It's not really live. It's pre-recorded on Monday. But I was seeing a future if I could do more live content. I need fans. To like the 3, 4, 5 of you who watch a lot, thank you. And to any new fans, welcome. All right. So, we broke a record with the UNC men's game with over 5,000 people present. However, it was a 0-0 draw. Not a win, but not a loss either. I can't be mad at it. The foul issues weren't really a trouble, with both teams getting 3 yellow cards. But UNC didn't really give up a penalty kick, so it didn't really matter. I would like to go on a mini rant though. Offsides is stupid and dumb, and I don't get it. Because Aiden Payne was, and I'm sure he was probably rightfully robbed of that goal, but um, I just don't like offsides because I don't understand it. It looked just fine when I saw it. And that was our only offside too. So like, what? That's our only one all season, and it took a win away from us. I mean, I guess we had a lot of opportunities. Tag Healy and Donovan Phillips both had 3 shots on goals. And defensively, we were able to kind of keep them quiet with them only having 2 shots on goals. NC State, I guess, had a better offense in terms of like getting there, but not with scoring. Let's see. Phillips is still one of the top shot creators when it comes to like shots on goal. It's like him, Healy, and Justin McLean are like one of the top ones in the team when it comes to the offense. Our goalie saved both of the shots on goals. Well, also Ryan Maloney and Nikola Markovic notched blocks that stifled the UNC offense. But 7 players on UNC had their own respective shots. So they were still able to kind of spread around the offense and give everyone a chance to score, unlike NC State, where it's like those good few people. And FAU, as we're going to see in a little bit. However, I feel like if that offsides didn't happen, we probably would have won. I think that you just can't really predict how these things. Soccer, I feel like, is one of the hardest sports to predict because all the factors could be right for a win, but they have to get the ball into the net. And I don't really understand the kind of intricacies of it, which oh well. Overall, I'm happy to steal a potential win away from UNC. And I guess kind of get our momentum started in the ACC to eventually, maybe, hopefully, winning the conference, and eventually, maybe, hopefully, winning it all. But we got to get past Stetson on Wednesday. I decided to skip Stetson. And we also have to look into FAU. As of recording, they're 19th in the country, but that does not factor in a 0-5 blowout that they had from University of North Florida, who is unranked and doesn't even have a vote to their name. Oh well. Actually, North Florida should get some credit because they didn't make it to the NCAA last season as an automatic qualifier from the ASUN. This will be FAU's second game in a 3-game road trip. Originally, it was supposed to start at Stetson, but that game got canceled. And I think so it was North Florida on, I think, Saturday, Sunday, followed by Saturday against NC State. And then they'll finish with Temple. So I guess it's not crazy moving around. FAU, I'll start with their defense. They're far from perfect on that side of the ball. However, they do have they have a really good goalie that has blocked 76% of the shots on goal in them. And even though the team has given up 48% shots or shots on goal, they have 3 shutouts. However, that 0-5 kind of negates all of it. So I think, I did mention the goalie's name, Alfred Mickelson. They are one of the more disciplined teams in their conference, being last in total fouls with 47, while their opponents usually give up about 60. Um, they played a great offensive game up until the North Florida game. Some of their notable scores, they have like a three-headed monster when it comes to offense. You have Mamadou Diarra with 4 goals, 2 assists, Olivier Mauer Jensen with 2 goals, and Abubakar Traore with 1 goal and 3 assists. Um, little mini rant again, second one. I wish they could more accurately record block stats. I feel like it's not irrelevant to soccer. I mean, maybe it's just the American way of thinking about sports, but I would like something, a quantifiable way of knowing whether a defender is good or not without actually having to sit through all the footage, which isn't even there. That's my third rant. And I'll go into that later. Um, FAU, they haven't shown that they could come back from anything yet. So I would say the most important way for NC State to win is to just start scoring fast and scoring early. Um, the defense, I think seeing Diarra, Muller, Jensen, and Traore against Maloney, Markovich, and Isaac Hefs it'd be a great game in that regards because it would just be, I don't want to say unstoppable force versus immovable object, but like really heavy to move object and a 60-mile-an-hour car. I think Donovan Phillips, the big three on the offense I mentioned with Healy, Phillips, and McLean, I think somebody's got to score. I think one of those three will. Because defensively, nothing really shouts from FAU. That 48%. That gives a lot of opportunities for NC State to score, and I think they'll take advantage of it. Just as long as they do it fast and they stay disciplined, which I think I say that every week, then they should be good to go. Final score projection 2-1, NC State. All right. We'll get to our volleyball right after this. All right. What break? It's just silence. That was my little joke I had saved for that. So the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas Classic was, I think, not over the weekend. But all we need to know is that NC State, they went 1-1. They are now officially, I think, 4-1 on the season. Sorry, I got a little close to the mic there. And I don't know when the rankings are supposed to update. Okay, it's supposed to update today, just not right now. But I feel like they're gonna start cracking their way in. They didn't beat Kansas State, but they did well against whatchamacallem, Nevada. So first, I'll explain what went wrong against Kansas State. So it's just kind of sorry, I'm tired. Everyone really got turned to be well on this team for Kansas State. Ava LeGrand had the assists, the blocks by Brenna Schmidt, the kills for Shaylee Myers. They all kind of led to their own successive scoring blocks that NC State just cannot get out of, especially in that first set. And even in the second set, Reagan Fox was really good coming off the bench in that set. And NC State just couldn't get back from the service errors that were provided. And speaking of that, they had a lot. They have an attack differential of +2. So I mean, they weren't as bad, but they still had a really low accuracy. Like I think they had 7% compared to Kansas State's 28%. Courtney Bryant, she took the charge offensively, but there was no real scoring efforts from the freshmen. I'm gonna whip into that, and I mentioned like some of the other players like Moen, Tsujiya, and Oeza Falar could probably have scored more, but I don't think that's her job. So I wrote that down thinking like, oh, maybe they could get a kill or an ace here and there, but how? Oh no, especially since Ashley Moen's a setter. Tsujiya, I think she's at Libero right now, or Falar is. Um, but there was definitely a defensive stunt. Um, Tsujiya Machiuwix, I mentioned her before, with her 16 digs, only gave up 6 points when the ball was directed to her. However, the blocks by Willie Cropper was not momentum changing like they were for Brianna Schmidt. And the last thing I'd like to mention is just growing pains, especially from game to game. 63% of the attack errors were done by the freshmen, and the lowest accuracy and even negative accuracy ratings were from the freshmen. They each took turns sucking, really. Jordan Smith was predominant in the first, Samira Dorsey in the second, and then Rebecca Ring in the third. I guess they did okay with the small sample sizes, but they still, I think Samira Dorsey had a negative, and neither Smith or Ring had greater than 10% accuracy, which led to a 3-0, shutout by Kansas State. But they made up for it in their game against Nevada, which I guess we kind of all saw coming, but they definitely, I think, made the adjustments. Not even just in being able to, I think they just, what's the term? They locked in and started playing better. Nevada, I mean, they're just not good. They had huge scoring stretches that were started from errors that were caused by Nevada. I mean, they went from 6-7 to 10-17 the first, 2-2 to 4-10 in the second, 7-11 to 11-18 in the third. It just kind of completely went the other way from that Kansas State game. They also had two bad sets, which one was even starting off that third set momentum that kind of, I feel like it basically kind of clinched the game, and it was just kind of like any score from that on from Nevada was just delaying the inevitable. Freshmen really showed up. Haley McFadden, she got a lot of reps, as well as Rebecca Ring and Jordan Smith. They all kind of took turns leading the charge and scoring during that first set. Or somehow there's this rare thing where more reps had higher accuracy, which I guess is to be expected from freshmen, but I didn't expect it at that level. Samira Dorsey and Rebecca Ring were the only two of those who played all three sets and did well in all three sets. And Tsujiya Machiuwicz, she's contributing offensively with her 5 assists. However, the most important player to mention, Courtney Bryant, she's just, I was not expecting her to step up the way she has, but she has just really taken over this team and has been the one to take charge. And I think that's just, that's vital. I think the team needed that to create some wins. And I mean, it's happening for them. They have their big veteran star, but they also have a lot of good offensive freshman pieces. So I was thinking like, I guess maybe what's the future looking like for this defense, especially with some inconsistent performances from Oeza Fular and Sydney Daniels. However, I think it did just enough. And for this classic, I forgot the name of it. I think that it's not really going to be an issue for NC State. I just don't think it will be at all. The showdown at the net versus the whatchamacallums South Carolina, Wednesday at 6 p.m. I'll probably be there. I keep saying that, but I think this time I might actually get off my butt and go, especially since it's 6 p.m. Shoot, I'll probably be there. South Carolina's not that great. They are as of Monday, I think they have one more game before the Wolfpack. They are, drum roll, 3-2. They had some pretty big losses against Florida State and Clemson. And okay, so now we can start getting into my second rant where it's like, why can't there be just more footage on these games? Because all I have to scout South Carolina or to even watch the highlights, because I can't be there at every game. You know, I'm a college sophomore, have physics and calculus courses. It's not, the time is eventually going to start going away where these episodes might become less frequent, have less amount of quality or quantity to them. And it'd be easier if I didn't have to like pull stuff out of my butt to get these um to be able to scout these opponents, because I can't find anything outside of like 1-2 minute highlights for anything that isn't football, which I guess makes sense because of the whole like people don't really watch volleyball and men's soccer at the college level, or I guess really at all. I don't know many people who watch soccer. But I'm kind of going off a little side tangent there. I'd like to see more. I'd like to be able to scout more and be able to understand things. That being said, Nia Hall, Victoria Hill, they're kind of the dynamic duo for South Carolina's volleyball team. Um, they both are leaders in kills, blocks, and digs per set. Elena Johnson is top 10 in her conference for service aces, and Kimmy Thompson is the assist leader on the team. South Carolina is not that great in their own conference. They aren't really top 10 in anything. And in a 14-team conference, that is a yikes. Um, so just the few things I could get from that game in Clemson, I'd say they have a front-heavy defense where their middle back, I guess, is in the front, like their Wabero and their hitters are further back. They kind of come in defensively, and they are really good at being able to scramble and rotate, like where they, even offensively or defensively, they've shown that they're able to kind of collapse into that front part of the court in order to set up plays as they need to, and then kind of spread back out before they can, before the opponent can even get to the ball, I'd say, or even like be able to kind of get a good hand on it, and the setter's able to get a set up. I'd say the big issue seems to be going deep. I think that they're able to score a lot in that. Clemson was able to score a lot by kind of focusing on getting a little further back. I feel like the mid-back court is where a lot of scoring came from, which makes sense because, why would, it's not really easy to score in that front part, but it just felt like if the middle back couldn't get her hands on it, chances are more likely than not that it was either going to be a score or very sloppy libero play defensively. On only one set, set forward, they're able to have kind of a consistent back and forth. So whoever started the scoring momentum seemed to kind of keep it, which is really good if NC State got in the lead and South Carolina probably couldn't get a comeback. The only other thing I mentioned was the slower pace offense, which I guess what I mean by that is just not an impressive offense. This should be an easy win for South Carolina. I'd say just get a big defensive veteran stars early to shut it down, to then have your star young players can kind of come in relief. Courtney Bryant, I think, will kind of force the leads off of Ashley Mullen, while Shuji and Cropper get a lot of the defensive stuff taken care of. And then eventually later on, you can kind of get, who would I like to see actually play? Rebecca Ring is our highest kind of prospect, so I guess I'd like to see her. Just anyone really. I think they're all pretty good, but one of them's gonna have to show up and be the star eventually. Um, you know, later in the year when they do like their all freshman team, it's gonna be like 90%. All the hitters are gonna be NC State people. Just watch. Um, I'm not sure about like player versus player matchups. Maybe that's something I'll do in the future, but I'm hoping to kind of learn more or um kind of get some extra help. Final score expectation 3-1, and kind of go back into the expert help. If anyone would like to kind of come in for occasional segments or be a co-host and try to talk about just your perspective, like if you're kind of better understanding these sports than me, I'd love to hear your input. Just comment one of the videos that you would, or give me a email. I don't want to say my email over radio actually, so I'll probably backtrack on that. Just find the YouTube videos on WKNC podcast and reply, and I should be able to get to you on that, or find a better system of doing it. But I think that's it. That's all I have for you today. A little longer than normal. Um, Hope you have a really good day. Um, Actually, let me get into next episode. Duke football, Florida State women's soccer, and we'll start cross country coverage with the Adidas cross country tournament. So, as I mentioned before, have a good day and go